All right, you guys have asked me so many times, thousands of times, to really talk about being turned out in prison and what happens in the female's prison. So today I'm going to tell you guys all of the inside details, all of the little juicy things that you're probably wondering, and I'm also going to open you guys' mind to some things I can guarantee you have not thought about before. So if you're interested in hearing all of that, then just stick around. Good morning, my lovelies, my beauties, my friends. My name is Christina and welcome to my channel. If you are new here, thank you so much for clicking on this video. I really hope that you will subscribe, stick around, take a chance on hearing some things that I have to say. And if you are a returning subscriber, y'all already know, y'all are my babies. So good morning, good morning, good morning. How's everybody doing today? I hope you guys are having an amazing day, an amazing week. Yes. I'm not going to spend too long on the intro today. We're just going to jump right on into it. If you are new here, hi, my name is Christina. Whenever I was 21, I was sentenced to 3 years prison in the state of Florida. So I'm talking to you guys from experience. Been there, done that, got that t-shirt. So if you guys watched my videos, which was my 3-year prison experience video or my first day in prison story, then you guys are going to know about the first thing I'm going to talk about. If you guys have not watched those videos, I will leave them linked down below so you can go and check those out first. So we're just going to start way at the beginning when you first get to prison. Okay, so when you get to prison in the state of Florida and you are a female, you are going to be sent to the reception center. Now, if you've never been to prison before, you are going to hear, you know, you've heard the stories, right, about Miss Bertha or Big Bertha making you her B. You know, y'all have heard that, being somebody's B in there or whatever, and you're kind of worried, and you're going to be riding in the truck. You're going to be asking people, like, what's going to happen? Like, is somebody going to make me hold their pocket? You know, you're like freaking out. Like, is somebody going to get my cookie? Like, I don't want to give my cookie away. I like my cookie. It's my cookie. Ah! You're freaking out, and for good reason, because let me tell you what happens when you first get there. Right after you end up getting your strip search, which I'm telling you is one of the most humiliating things you will ever go through, okay? Prison strip search is nothing like you've ever experienced before. Obviously, if you've been to prison, you've been to jail, okay? So you get strip searched in jail, kind of like how it is on Orange is the New Black, where they make you take your clothes off, you have to squat and cough. Well, honey, it ain't nothing like that in prison. I don't want to go through those gruesome details again here. If you haven't heard them, check out the other videos, but it's pretty humiliating. So when you're through with all that, you get your clothes on, you go through laundry, you have to do the walk. It is called the walk. Now, when you're there, you were in the reception center. So this is there's the worst of the worst at Lowell Correctional Institution in Florida. Okay, this is where death row is kept. This is where lifers are kept. This is where the high profile crimes are. Okay, so when you walk out the doors and the light hits you, and you have to have your laundry bag on and you're getting ready to go, you just got there, okay, and you're walking to whatever dorm they're putting you in and the reception center so they can find out where they're going to send you. On either side is fences. You're walking. On both sides there's fences. And the women come from every which way and they stand up on those fences and they put their arms on those fences and they're, hey girl, hey, dang, look at you. Ooh, look at that booty. They say that to you. Now, are some of them just messing with you because you are fresh meat? And yes, in the women's prison, you are fresh meat too, baby. It is not just in the male's prison, okay? Women got hormones too. Women got needs too. And that's just how it goes. So when they're doing that to you, and I'm talking about not 1 or 2 or 3, those fences get filled and they're checking you out. And there's multiple reasons why they're checking you out, okay? One, some of them are messing with you, okay? Especially if you look timid and scared. Oh man, it's like when you walk through, there's 2 ways you do not want to look. 1, timid and scared, and 2, too hard for your britches, because both of those are going to get you tried real easily. You just want to keep it walking. A little bit of confidence, but not too much. Not too much. That's going to be your first experience right there of being looked up and down like fresh meat. Are you gonna get turned out or not? So then whenever you go into the dorm, you are 100% gonna have women that are gonna come up to you, ask you, you know, do you have a girlfriend? Do you have a boyfriend? Do you swing both ways? Do you swing 3, 4, 5 ways? They're gonna ask you and they're gonna wanna know. But you wanna know the real details? They don't care what your preference is, okay? Because sometimes even the women who have never been with a woman before, that's some of those women's favorite type, because they're gonna turn you out in there. And if you got a lot of time, chances are you will be turned out. Another thing that I've told you guys about before, I want to get through all of these facts first in case you have not heard them, is women will come and look at you in the showers if they have a crush on you, if they're attracted to you. They will come and look at you in the toilets and do it right in front of you. Have you ever seen that scene with, and I talked about this is on my Orange is the New Black video, where Piper is sitting on the toilet and Crazy Eyes is coming and looking at her through the peephole? Well, you don't have doors or anything like that in prison on the bathrooms, but they will come and look at you like that. They will. It's just gonna happen. And you really have to understand that some of these women have a lot of years in prison, right? Like, you know, some of them want to mess with you, some of them want to sleep with you, and some of them really actually would probably like to have a relationship with you and want some love. So there's multiple reasons, you know, why women do that. You know, when you put somebody in prison and you say you're never getting out, or you've got 30 years, you know, you're gonna want some companionship at some way, some sort. So let's get into some other facts about being turned out. Women that go into prison, whether you are married, never been with a woman before, straighter than a board that you feel like, uppity, 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 never done anything wrong, just happened to get into some sort of little embezzlement and, you know, would never, ever, ever drink and drive, or never, ever, ever break the law, but oops, you did something and you're in prison, and they would never, ever, ever mess with a woman. Mess with women too, okay? You'd be shooketh in there. In the females prison, it is very, very interesting because you have women who are transitioning into men, right? And they could have full beards, they could have hair on their chest, they could have, you know, their top, you know, their boobs removed, but if they still have the female genitalia and they haven't had that changed, or maybe they don't want to have that changed, they are going to be in a woman's prison. So in females prison, you have basically men, right? Like the only difference is the genitalia. So when you see them in their blues and in their prison uniform, they look like men. And when I tell you, they don't just look like, these are fine men, okay? These are sexy, attractive. You would like see them in Walmart and be like, baby, you are fine. Okay, they're beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. The only difference is they still have the female genitalia. They haven't had a transition there yet. So when you're in prison and you see 1,000 women and then you see what looks like 4 or 5 men, you know, in there, it's kind of crazy, and not crazy in like there's anything wrong with, you know, being transgender or transitioning, nothing, not saying anything like that, but because mentally in your psyche, you know you're in an all women's prison, but yet you see men in there with you, right? You go to get into the shower and you see going into the shower next to you is a sexy behind man, and it's kind of like, whoa, you know what I mean? But let me tell you guys something, and this is the difference between male's prison and women's prison. As far as I understand, I've obviously never been in a male's prison, but whenever I did the video with the correctional officer and we were talking about transgender women in the male's prison, you know, they are transitioning into women. They have their breasts and their long hair and are taking hormones. The only difference is for them too, they have not had the genital surgery yet, so they still have the male genitalia. The correctional officer told us that they kind of stick together. They stick with the LGBTQ community kind of group, and you know, they keep them housed separately to keep them safe and keep them protected, which I think is absolutely amazing. And definitely made me feel a lot better whenever I heard that coming from a correctional officer. But in the women's prison, honey, if you are a transgender male, you are going to be sought out. You don't have, if you let me tell you something. If you are a transgender male or if you are a stud, and let me tell you guys what stud is, and before anybody comes at me and tells me that I'm using a derogatory term, stud is not a derogatory term. It is not at all. I've had hundreds of people that are part of the LGBT community, my ladies out there, have told me that you are studs, you call yourself a stud, there's nothing wrong with that. And in prison, stud is a term of endearment. Studs are highly, highly sought after, okay? So if you have these type of women or trans men that are in prison, you can go to prison, you ain't gotta have $1 to your name, honey. You ain't got to have nothing. Unless you've done some sort of heinous crime involving children or something, like if you really hurt somebody in that type of position, you're gonna get taken care of, because the women are gonna be after you in there. They are probably what causes the most fights in there, is women fighting over them, okay? So first of all, please don't go to prison. By no means am I encouraging it. It's awful. It's gonna be drama constantly that you cannot avoid. I will say that. You will not be able to avoid the drama in there, okay? So before I go on, let me tell you this story about this little old lady that came in. She was so cute. I want to say she was about 5'4", okay? She had the straight up grandma haircut, the little short hair. And if anybody's been in prison with me that you know, please just tell me you know her. We don't want to say her name because we don't do that over here and it's her business or whatever. But little cute grandma, had the little grandma glasses, the white, curly hair. When she came in, she was scared, okay? She was scared, had never been in trouble before. She had did something, got involved in something that she shouldn't have. But when she came in, she never been in a relationship before with a woman. And you would never think, like, she's just like little old grandma, just little old grandma. Before you know it, we started seeing her. She paired up with this other lady that had been with women before. And, at first they started they became like little best friends. And then they started going to the chow hall together, and then like going different places together. And I've told you guys before, if you have never been in prison, then I'm going to tell you, whenever you're in there, you have nothing else to do other than watch everybody. Everybody knows everybody's business. You live together, okay? It's not even like you can go in your room and close your door and get some privacy, right? Even in your own home. Everybody sees everything. And women like to talk. You know what I'm saying? We be talking. So anyways, we would see them all the time together, and then they would go take showers together, and then they would sneak and sit on each other's bunks together. And then before you know it, you would see the little old ladies back into the back of the dorm, and they would sit on the bed like holding each other's hand, and the other little, which you're not supposed to do. So if you want to, you're not supposed to do, but like, come on, they sneak around, you do it, it's whatever. And then so it was so cute, because it was like, even grandmas get turned out in prison. But hey, like, before you judge, I do want to say, before you judge, please understand that, we crave, and I've told you guys this a million times too, human beings crave affection and attention and love and pleasure and, food, especially if you're like me, and sleep, and you go into prison, you're in a broken down state of mind. You almost need, and not all of them are in a relationship, okay? Not all of them are in a relationship type of way, but you need something to get you by. And different people use different things to help get them by. Some people, God gets them by. Some people use hustling in there. They're big time hustlers, and that keeps their mind occupied and busy and keep going. And then you have people who, get into relationships, and it helps their time be a little bit more easier. I will also say that being turned out in the female's prison, or being in a woman-on-woman relationship in the female's prison, is not taboo like it seems to be in male's prison. When I'm watching male videos, sometimes I've seen male videos where it's open and accepted, especially if you're like on death row, then it's kind of out in the open. But in the female's prison, it's not taboo. Like, you may have one or two people that don't like it for whatever reason, but pretty much everybody else, whether you're in a relationship with a woman or not, you don't care in there. Like, nobody cares, people have their relationships, and you know, it's not like you're going to go get beat up or jumped because you're in a relationship with a woman. In females prison, it doesn't work like that. Okay, so a few things that I want to talk to you guys about being in relationships inside of prison that you may not think about. So let's just say that you are an actual relationship with a woman on the street, okay? Like you and your woman are together, and then one of your girlfriend or your wife or whatever ends up getting locked up and gets sentenced to prison. That is so hard for both people, okay? Both people, and I'm gonna tell you guys why. Because your woman is going to be surrounded by thousands of women who want her for the next 2, 3 years, 5 years, or whatever. So it's constant temptation while you're in a vulnerable state because you miss your family, you miss your home, you're in there, you're wondering what your girl is really doing on the street, even though she's answering your phone calls and coming and visiting you. You wonder what she's doing at Friday night at 2 o'clock in the morning. So that is very, very, very hard for both parties when you are already in a relationship with a woman and one goes to prison. Let me give you guys an example. For my ladies out there that are married in a heterosexual relationship with a male, in your mind, I want you to imagine your husband, God forbid, he would never do this, so getting arrested and going to prison, but they put him in the prison with 1,000 women. How would you feel when you know your husband is in there around constant temptation all the time? You know, women that are beautiful. There's some beautiful women in prison, okay? Women that are smart, artistic, have money, you know, and are bored. And they're sleeping and showering together. Like, how would you feel? That's what it's like for women who are already in a relationship with women to go, for one of them to go to prison. It's incredibly, incredibly, incredibly hard on both parties. Because it's tempting even on the woman in there. It doesn't matter how good, you know, your relationship is or your marriage is, it's still tempting because it's everywhere, okay? And women are strong. Some women stay faithful and they're strong, but just trying to give you guys a different perspective. It's very tempting. I have also seen women who have never been in a relationship with a woman come in, when they go in, they have the long hair, all girly girl, all that. Go in there and complete flip it to a stud, get their hair cut short, grabbing their pants in the crotch, and being with the ladies. I've even had one of you guys that was an officer, a female officer in a female's prison, end up getting in a relationship with a woman that was in prison, and then when she got out, they got together, and then they got married. So even women with women, as far as officer to inmate, cross that line too and end up being together. And I think that from what I understand, there's a rule that you can, after a year, the inmate has been released for a year, then you guys can be together. So that's what I've heard. That's what I understand. I haven't looked it up or anything like that. I don't even know if you can look it up. But, you know, so it's not like completely illegal, you know, and sometimes you can't help who you love, right? You can't help who you develop feelings for. I think we've all probably just about been in a relationship with somebody that in the beginning we did not want to go there. I know I did, even with my husband, you know, like, although I had a little crush on him in high school, I thought he was so fine, like what, I didn't want that type of relationship with him at all in the beginning, but then I fell in love with him because he made me fall in love with him, with his old sweet self and old being a good daddy self and old handsome, sexy self. And, you know, here we are. So sometimes you really just can't help when you start to develop feelings for people. And that's whether it's with an inmate on inmate or even inmate on guard sometimes. So let me tell you some of the sad things about being turned out in prison. Something that's very sad to see in prison is when a woman comes into prison who has never been with a woman before. She gets turned out, gets into a relationship, but she's still married, right? Married with kids on the streets. And then she spends 3-5 years with her girlfriend on the inside, okay? And then when she leaves prison and her girlfriend's still in there, she goes back to her husband and kids. And then the woman that's in prison that just spent the last 3 to 5 years with her, you know, loses her. She doesn't write, she doesn't communicate, she doesn't do any of that anymore. So I have seen women really lose it over that in there. Their girlfriends get out and completely forget about them. And that is a risk for the people that turn women out. When they turn a woman out inside there, it's a risk for them as well. But I also do have friends, and shout out to you, my girl, if you are watching this right now. Known you forever, love you forever, who went to prison just recently, fell in love with a woman in there. They both got out, and they are still together to this day here on the outs, and they are very happy. They look very, very happy. So, you know, that does happen too. Because I know that I get questions a lot if people ever get in relationships in prison and keep them up when they get out. Yes, it does happen. Before I close this video out, I want to say that women can be very emotional beings. I know that not all of us are emotional. Y'all already know I'm emotional. I cry over everything. But women, we can be very emotional beings. And when we connect, it's usually emotionally, right? It's not all physical, it's emotional. So when you're in prison and you're sitting and talking to women all day long, you're building an emotional connection with them. You can't help it. You know, you literally cannot help it. Now, whether it crosses that line into intimacy or not is all up to the parties involved. But you're definitely going to build deep and emotional relationships with each other while you are in prison. So it's very easy to happen. And unless you have been there in that situation, you really shouldn't judge, because it's a very unique experience, because you are at your low. You are at your rock bottom at that point when you're in prison and you've lost everything. And it happens all day, every day. And I know that you guys are going to ask, and I have said this before, but I will say it again now. While I was in prison, I did not have a girlfriend. No, I did not. So there it is. I had girls that I was very, very close with. I had girls, women, you know what I mean, that people assumed was my girlfriend because we were like this and we did everything together, you know. And I had girls that had, you know, crushes on me. But I will tell you guys this. The most fights that I have seen, and I'm talking about crazy fights, were with women, girlfriends, stuff like that. Because you have to understand, you are living with constant competition. It does not matter how strong you are, how confident you are in your relationship or whatever, you know, it still will get to you when you're living around, you know, let's just say in your dorm, you have 100 women and you're in a relationship with a woman and you're living around 100 other women that want your girl, okay? And they'll do whatever they got to do to get to her. You know, it's not like you can go home and shut the door and stay away from that person. It's not like you can delete those people on Facebook and, you know, work on your relationship. No, you're in there. You're all in there together. So, like I said, the biggest fights that I've seen because of relationships. So I hope that you guys like this video about me telling you guys about people being turned out in the females prison here in Florida, the ones that I've been to. If you guys have any questions about this topic specifically, let me know down in the comment section down below. You know that I am good with answering the hard questions. I like answering the juicy details. Just make sure they're appropriate enough that YouTube's terms and policies, they won't kick me off the platform for talking about it. But yeah, so other than that, those are the details about being turned out in the women's prison. Please don't forget to like this video. It's a free way that you can help your girl out. And until next time, I love you guys so very much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.